I'm going. Alrighty. I'm going to call the June 6th, 2023 Sustainability Committee of the Village of Cross Plains to order. We'll do a roll call vote. Melissa Gavin,
Here.
Steve Douglas,
Here.
John Durant, Aaron Linus, and Michael Pomykowski, myself. I am here. Um, the agenda is there. I don't know. I'm not going to read it. Y'all can see it. And I'm going to go into, is there any public comment? Hearing none, we will move on to general business. We are now in committee member report outs and updates. Anybody, or is everything sort of on the agenda?
I have one that I'll just bump up from last week,
Okay.
or rather last month, which is one of our goals or one of our priorities in the sustainability plan was to promote focus on energy programs. And so there is an event being planned. It's June 14th, a week from our usual meeting time, actually. Focus on Energy will be coming to the Cross Plains Library to demo and share some of the programs available for residents to save energy. And I haven't seen any marketing or anything from Focus on Energy or the library, but we have set that date. So, and I think it's 6 o'clock on June 14th at the library.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So did you guys talk? I'm just going to talk about that since it's not. Did you work with the new assistant librarian on that
Yep.
and
Yep.
stuff? You coordinated with her. So does she know how to send out like those event things, like how Chris Loman used to? Like there was like a email mailing list because I was on that list. I'm assuming I still am, and I haven't gotten like anything like that about that.
Yeah. Michael, I don't know. That's a good question. I know she's still learning the ropes, and it's possible that she, because she's learning the ropes, she got as far as planning confirming the programming and the date and the time and holding the space, but maybe she doesn't really have her arms around how to do the marketing. So I don't know. Are you on the library committee? Like, who's the best person to do some outreach to her?
I'm not on that committee. I mean,
Okay.
Sarah Borchardt is, but anybody could. I was planning on going in to the library. I don't know if it was going to be tomorrow or Thursday because I kind of wanted to talk to Pam before she retires. Um, with that being said, I, I can just follow up with her. So I go in there and talk to Pam. I can just go in there and talk to her, or I'll just send her an email and be like, there's this focus on energy event. I know because Chris Loman was, I think she was the adult events coordinator or something is what she called it.
Okay.
Like when she would like she scheduled Dane from the village to do a thing on like mushrooms and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris did. It was like things like that, or when she would try to have like speakers come in from the UW on whatever. That's like she would send out that blast about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen
Hmm.
anything come out, but we did set the date. The other thing and she was trying to figure out if it should be a series or what, but she's also working with MG&E to do like an EV demo day, and that
Okay.
may happen in like August or September. Um, so Michael, if you would be willing to see if you can talk to her when you go into the library, that would be terrific. If you're not able to catch her or you're not able to make contact, then I can send an email as well, but it would be great if you're going to be in there, if you'd be willing to see if you can talk to her.
Yeah.
So what was the list that Chris would send out? I must not have ever gotten on that. It's just library centric events because I do get
Yeah.
some from the village that's super helpful, like they had a change in the trash day or whatever, and that was nice to know, or something announcing the time for trick or treat or Memorial Day parade. That's kind of nice coming from the village, but it sounds like maybe just the library has something.
They do. It's their adult programming series or something like that is what it was called. And so Chris would, what was sad is that she would kind of reach out to like speakers and such from the UW. And oh, here you go. So it is on the main library page, the lower
Oh,
energy bill
good.
focus on
Okay.
energy from 6 to 7, June 14th. Um, I don't know if I can find it. It was somewhere. Oh yeah, you go to the library events. It's at the top, and it's like says kids and families, teens, adults. Oh, she has it under the adults page. The focus on energy. I wonder. And then she has something for free memory screenings. Did I miss this email? I don't think I did. They're used to adults.
Oh, and I see that I can sign up right there too.
Yeah, can you
Or
sign up? Is
yeah,
that
it's right
yeah,
under that
program
adults.
notification.
That's super
Yeah,
helpful.
see, so that was where I just typed my email in once. I'd like to be notified about new adult programs. And that's where I don't know. I don't think I ever saw the focus on energy thing. And so she just needs to blast that thing out into that mailing list. I think. So I don't, yeah. I know, I don't think I saw it.
Okay.
Like-
Okay. Well, yeah, if you're willing to mention that to her when you're in the library next, that would be great. But glad to hear that it's at least listed as an event.
Right, right. Well, we wanted to be notified. Excuse me. All right. So let's see. Where is the thing? Oh, I'm still not. Here we go. Okay. All right. So now discussion and possible approval of the May. Are there any other report outs? Okay. Discussion and possible approval of the May 10th, 2023 Sustainability Committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve these?
I will motion to approve them.
And Steve will second.
Okay, great. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The motion passes. So now we are moving into the discussion and possible action of the sustainability plan implementation. Let's talk about the school and government benchmarking offer first. Melissa, this was something that you sort of knew about, so I just sort of threw in. Do you want to talk about this a little bit?
Oh gosh, I actually might punt it over to Brian.
Okay.
Yeah, and thank you for scrolling down. So Brian shared this with, I think, just Michael and me, this opportunity to apply for a program through, this is a state level, right? This is Wisconsin Energy Office.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, okay, focus. Okay,
Mhm.
yeah. And we wanted to just kind of review what it is and then talk about whether it's a good fit, because the application, the time to apply is coming up pretty quickly. And it wasn't clear to me, Brian, whether we needed village approval to participate in the program, but you apply, they're going to accept 10 applicants, and the work is around helping applicants, if they're approved, to kind of figure out where they're spending energy and how much they're spending, and then to, as I understand it, like develop a plan to manage and reduce energy usage. And there is a little bit of funding for it. Like it's not like a grant, but we also don't have to pay for the program, I don't think. And I think we would get $1,000 to help pay for like somebody's time to do some of the benchmarking. And I think, one of the advantages is it's just like a supported process for us to go through to really understand, to start to get the data that we need, like the baseline data that we would need to understand how much energy we're using, and then to help create a plan for how to reduce it. I guess my read of this is that it's like a more in-depth process and program of what we just went through with the engineer from Focus on Energy. Like this would be a deeper dive, whereas that engineer sort of looked at some of our MG&E bills and did a site visit. This would be like a more in-depth program to come up with like an energy management plan. That's my read of it. And I don't know, Brian or Michael, if you've done any more of a deep read and have any thoughts on it. But I wanted to flag it for our conversation here because it fits in well with some of our sustainability plans priorities. And it seemed like a good opportunity for us to explore.
Yeah, I mean, it more or less falls in line with what the energy audit was setting about trying to do, which was kind of identify what our current energy use is within the village, and then as Melissa stated, trying to identify ways that we can set some benchmarks for improving upon that over the course of participation in the program. The only question that I had, and this might be more of a question for Michael as far as recommendations. As you can see on the page here, enrollment deadline is June 15th, and if we're going to do this, I mean, I could inquire of Jay whether or not he's willing to allow us to go forward with an application pre-village board approval, just on the basis of what we might qualify for with regard to it. If we're going to need village board approval, or if Michael, you think we need village board approval, we're not going to be able to get it in before the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I'll just speak honestly. I mean, through my read through this is somebody is going to have to type the last 24 months of energy usage into the Energy Star portfolio manager, which, unless someone is volunteering, I'm imagining that's going to be Bobby, which is staff time being pulled from other jobs, which is why I think we'll process the benchmark, which is why I think they're, I don't know if they were going to pay you $1,000, or if that's only if you did something.
I think it's if you get approved to be in the program.
Oh yeah,
my read is that you get $1,000 to offset the cost of time required to enter in data.
right. You also receive $1,000 for tracking your bills updated quarterly, and you'll get a 25% bonus up to $500 for any related project that you do. Right. So it would, I don't know. I mean, it just depends on how. One thing that scares me about this is it seems like I don't know. What's your initial feeling on this? Like, are people thinking this is something we should do? I mean, I understand benchmarking helps get you there, but if I just got the last 2 years of bills, I could probably tell you where all the energy is being spent. I could just put them into a spreadsheet and be like, this is where, how much the water treatment plant's using this, how much the wells are using, this is how much this building, which is kind of what was being done before. The advantage of this is it looks like you get to the advantage, the energy advisor will meet with the customer and energy teams, if applicable, monthly. So, I mean, strategies can be discussed for deeper savings. I mean, it's almost, I'm not going to slam Cross Plains, but I don't know if we're going to be a big enough entity to even qualify. Like, this might be toward
it's for school. Yeah, I don't know, Michael, because it's for schools too. So I think it's municipalities and schools, and I think that they're looking, my guess is they're looking for a mix of entities to apply. So my initial thought was, if we can spend less than an hour on the application, that it would be worth it. My question was, what's the trigger for requiring village approval before we proceed? And that's not clear to me.
I mean, my personal feeling is that this is more or less kind of in line with a grant, like our grant policy, which sort of you can apply, but then pre-deadlines without seeking village board approval, but ultimately the village board will have the final say on whether or not we participate or take part in this. The only caveat with this is that it's a little bit longer participation period, and it's gonna more or less overlap with a lot of our big planning for other projects right now that's going on. So like, I don't want to overextend this, but it does fall in line very close to what we were trying to accomplish with the energy audit and some of the goals with that. So I felt it was in the best interest to bring it to the attention of the committee, but
Yeah. When I look at the application, the thing that I think that it would take some time is section 5. So there's like a 1-page application, but section 5 requires us to detail our plan to track energy usage throughout the year, as well as how it fits into the larger energy plan. And I think that I mean, I feel like it would probably take less than an hour to complete this application, especially if we spent a few minutes on tonight's call talking through the benchmarking plan. And I think section 5, I'm not looking at my screen. Perfect. Okay, you've got it up here. I think what that really could entail is our plan is to hire somebody, if approved, to hire somebody to help us track that on a monthly basis using our MG&E bills. And it fits into our sustainability plan, which was passed in November of 2021. I would say like we shouldn't overpromise and we shouldn't be inauthentic, but I think that if we got it, it would help us really be accountable to some other entity to continue on energy reductions, which we need to do. And right now it's sort of like it's up to the sustainability committee to continue to come back to it. But if there was yet another entity that we were accountable to, I think that would be good for us.
Yeah. Steve, do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, this is kind of, well, first, I'm just kind of mulling over it this first time seeing it. I'm just wondering what, it certainly is in line with what, what our goals are. I'm thinking, what is the cost again? It does look like a pretty straightforward application. What is the downside when I mean, do we literally take that $1,000 and you hire a student to do this? Or do you pull Bobby away from other stuff that's where I see the biggest cost probably is on staff time for doing that auditing. But it certainly, in my opinion, fits in with where we're going. And, and Melissa's got a good point. If you kind of have another hook another angle that's kind of pushing us, prodding us ahead on some of these projects, it certainly couldn't hurt. And if the cost is low, why not?
The toughest part for me right now is I am in no position right now before this deadline to get this done on behalf. So it would also require me passing it off to someone like Bobby and saying, I'm sorry, I'm about to go on vacation and I don't have time to do this. So I just, in fairness, it would be that conversation would need to be had. And I don't necessarily want to do that either, but this is important and it is, like I said, in alignment with what we're trying to accomplish. So it might be a worthy endeavor to pursue.
What if I mean, really, like I really think this could take less than an hour. So what if I tried my hand at drafting responses to these and I sent them to you? I sent the draft application to you, Brian, to
Okay.
have somebody else take a look at it.
Okay.
And then let's submit it. And here's the thing, if they award it, we can always decline it. We can always say, on second thought, it looks like we're not going to be able to do it. We can always decline it. But I think this would be a really good hook for us to continue doing our work around. And I truly don't think, I'm looking at some of these questions. Some of these questions I might not be totally sure how to answer, but I can certainly put a draft together so we can keep this moving.
Yeah, a lot of it just looks sort of demographic in a way.
Yeah.
It's really that benchmarking plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really that section 5 is where the time is going to come in. I mean, and when I initially read it, that was, detail your plan to track energy usage throughout the year. I mean, what does that mean? We're going to look at our utility bills and type them into the program? I mean, isn't
well,
that what
actually,
the answer
I think it
is?
is.
Michael, that's
Yeah.
what I think it is too. I think that's what we say is that we're gonna hey, maybe we say we're gonna hire somebody, or we're gonna, use staff time to pull the data monthly and to enter it into benchmarking software, and
But
it's consistent with our sustainability plan.
but it's actually, I think you need to enter in the trailing 24 months from July 21 to June of 23, which means all that already exists.
Um,
It says
yeah,
it on
my
page 3. Record your
so
historical monthly
yeah, so we have
utility
to do
data.
that too. But the section 5 is to detail your plan
Oh yeah,
to
then you have to
track
do it.
energy.
Then you're doing it. Yeah, well, right. So it's basically gonna have 3 years of energy in there. The whole thing that, yeah, that concerned me as well, how as the statement as how well it fits into the larger energy plan for your organization. What is that? Do we
So
have a larger?
that's what we would say is that's our sustainability plan. It fits into our sustainability plan to reduce energy by the village, and then we can even link our sustainability plan there. This is so pretty common in grant applications. We respond with what we wish they had asked us, and we share the information that's relevant. They can decide whether it's useful or not, but that's what we have, and that's how we can, be authentic, is we can point to that sustainability plan.
Okay, see, that's where I don't know about writing grants, where because I read that and I'm like, we don't have a energy plan per se, so how are we going to win this? Is like what went on in my brain, because I think more like answer the question directly, right? Versus give them something that mostly answers the questions or sort of does, or who knows if it does.
We'll give it, yep. We'll give them what we've got. That's what I would. So how about, I mean, so Brian, I know you just said you don't have a lot of time. You don't have any time to focus on this. Some of these questions, I'm not sure what the exact response is. Like, I don't know what to put in for our, does that say an FEIN?
Yeah,
I
we
don't have my reading glasses.
yeah, we would
Some
need to
tax
look.
number, I think.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So some of that stuff I would need somebody else to do, but I'm happy to at least draft up section 5 and as many of the other sections as possible.
That's fine. I mean, if you want to send that over to me, I can try to. That tomorrow is going to be a very busy day because I have a staff meeting and I have 3 performance appraisal things that I'm going through tomorrow. So I'm pretty much tied up. Tomorrow's shot, but the Thursday I'm trying to tie up loose ends before I'm on leave for a little over a week. So that's kind of why I'm got a lot of stuff on my plate.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to fit this one into.
That's legit.
Yeah.
That's legit. And so would it be, I'm just trying to think of like the easiest way. So first of all, I think the only thing that I wanted to make sure that we talked about on this application is the benchmarking plan. If I were to say what I just said to the group, that we're gonna, we're gonna use staff time or hire somebody to import data from the previous years and then also pull data on a monthly basis and input it into the tracking software, and it fits into our larger plan because of our sustainability plan, and I'll link to it. Does that seem okay for folks? Are you good with that, and
Y-
see what they do with our application?
Yes, I think
Yeah,
that's great.
Okay.
I'm good with that. If you
Okay.
want to work with Brian, or Brian, then if you want to talk to Bobby, maybe a lot of this stuff Bobby knows, like, because Bobby's going to have to look up the electric account number and the gas account number, I'm imagining, because those are going to be on the MG&E bills, right?
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
so if you want to work with Brian, but you might be working more with Bobby to get most of this information in there.
Okay.
Just
Well,
saying. I
Brian,
mean, I don't know.
yeah, I'm
Do you
gonna
guys wanna-
download the application. I'll put a draft together. I'll send it to you, but then you can feel free to loop me in with Bobby, and I can work directly with Bobby.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Good plan. Sounds like a
Cool.
plan.
Okay,
Cool,
sounds good to
thanks.
me. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
Okay, let's move on. Where are we at? This page. I never the agenda.
I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. So I kind of wrote that summary up. I wasn't sure if that's what we wanted or what did we want to give to the board. I don't know. It kind of just sort of. I was getting punchy with it. I was like, I don't know what to say. They said keep it to one page. I wasn't sure how much to type in, how much not to. And yeah, I don't know. I guess my question was, what did we want to do with this? I mean, are we looking to give it to the board to recommend doing one of these, or is it just these were things that were found that where energy can be saved? Right? I wasn't sure if I should be writing it from a
Yeah.
persuasive position or a summary position or an informational position or what.
Yeah.
I mean, because the first ones I just was like, all right, now I'm just like boiling it down. I mean, I'll be honest, I kind of went through like levels, right? Turn off UV lights would not need to save energy, cost savings undetermined. I mean, that's basically what that said. He was like, I mean, I could go into more of, like what he said, this could cost 50 grand to save 5 a year or whatever, I mean, but he didn't really sound like he knew, so I don't want to give wrong information. I wasn't sure. But then like the rooftop economizer, that's where I just kind of went through and summarized those sections a little bit more, right? And that's where, so I wasn't sure what we wanted. That's all I'm saying.
I gotta tell you, Michael, I love what you did in numbers 1 through 4, which are like very simple, very clear, very direct.
So they
I
got too
like
long,
that.
is what you're saying. That's your underlying message there, Melissa. You got a little wordy. People are their eyes are gonna roll back when they see rooftop units actually in letters, right?
Well, one thing that I see that kind of jumps out as me is the priorities. And I'm wondering if because I think you mentioned he kind of wrote it up as he did his walkthrough. It wasn't really a prioritization in his report.
Right.
He's kind of addressed things as he saw them. What if we prioritized the highs, high, medium, low? I guess assume there's a low in there someplace, probably.
There aren't any lows, I don't think.
Just highs and mediums.
Yeah.
The implication is there's stuff we can do. There's stuff the village can do, is the implication, I think. So would a good first step be to at least rearrange them by priority and then try to see if we can assess some sort of amount of effort or amount of cost that goes with those. So you sort of have a grid of here's a high priority for low effort, if there was such a thing. I doubt they're in there, to tell you that this may be a place you could start if you wanted to look at doing something.
Well,
Yeah, I think the hard part is probably, Steve, that the auditor probably didn't know the cost savings, so I don't know how we would capture that. But this is making me think about the previous conversation that we just had. And this is I think I'm glad we're talking about this now, because I'm going to reference our sustainability committee or plan, but I'm also going to reference this summary of what the audit gave us, because I think potentially if we're part of this program, maybe we can figure out some of the cost savings if we're part of a program that creates some benchmarking, and then we're working with an evaluator to help identify deeper savings.
that this is sort of our beginnings of our energy plan.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
The
That's
beginnings of the
exactly
energy
it.
plan.
Oh,
Yep.
that's a great
Looking
idea.
at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the Yeah.
He could sort of marry the two together. And if we
Yep.
have a monthly meeting with the energy expert,
Yep.
and they might be able to help us put some costs
Yep.
against these.
And then Michael, it just seems to me like for purposes, I think that this it would be really good to create a summary, a document like this. I don't know I don't know how much more simplified it should get. I do love Steve's idea of having sort of the high priority, having it sectioned by high priority and medium priority. And I think it's important to share that with the village and then also say, we're trying to understand the cost savings potential by applying for this other program, because I think that, we can, we might be able to determine that if we're working with an evaluator on a monthly basis.
Right. Okay, so now I'm looking at the priorities in terms of highs and mediums. If you were going to rank them with highs and mediums, those top three at the wastewater treatment plant, they just get moved down to number 9, and everything above that is all priority high. If
Okay.
you look at that, like it's not like
Yeah.
a huge,
Uh-huh.
like you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, those top three just move down to the bottom, and you have them ranked. All the highs are above the mediums.
Yeah.
Then.
And
Yep.
I like
Okay.
the idea that they all are referring to one area, as is the 2 library ones are together. I kind of like
Right.
that as a
Right.
secondary kind of grouping.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, Michael, what I'd say is let's start thinking about this in terms of the beginnings of our energy plan.
okay.
And if you want to, I guess my recommendations here are that this is something that we should share with the village, with the board rather, village board. What's your read on how deeply village board members are going to read materials? Do you think that simplifying it all to like what you've got on numbers 1 through 4, where it's like top line, the level of priority, or do you think that folks will give it a deeper read and having a paragraph under each is a good, would be a good use of your time?
Uh, I really don't know. See, I really don't know because I know not that they all don't, but some people don't even really read the packet all that much before
Yeah.
meetings. And so, to be quite honest with you, I don't know. I do know. What I want to say is to become quite honest with you is that if you're not asking for money to fix any of this stuff, some of these people are not even going to really even care.
Yeah.
They're not even going to really read it. That's where
That's a
you
good
know
point.
I mean, I just basically just that's pretty much what it is. Like if
Yeah.
we go in and because like these rooftop things inside of there, I mean that guy basically says verify with your HVAC contractor. You know what that means? That means that we're just asking for the HVAC contractor to come out and verify these things are happening or whatever. I mean, or the next time he's out, you ask them these questions or what have you, especially like, excuse me, at the library. Because I'll tell you one thing that there for a while, it seemed like the HVAC guy at the library was there a fair amount. Like he was fixing things, and then they finally had to replace something. And I mean, it's basically this demand controlled ventilation thing. Like I didn't even, I'll be honest with you, the first time I read the thing that the guy wrote up, I'm not really too sure I understood what he was talking about until I actually sat here and had to like retype it.
Yeah.
And figuring that out, just basically it sounds like when the library's open, they just go to some schedule and all these fans basically run to push air through. And when they close, they turn it off. And that's why he says they do a good job of it because at least they have it on a timer, it just isn't running, full blast like the UV lights at the water treatment plant. But then he says, well, now you can get into all these super duper fancy things like people counters and CO2 sensors and stuff.
Mm.
like, you know, that's when I started, I'm like, oh, so like they have these sensors that when they detect that the carbon dioxide level in the library's gone up, then the ventilation fans kick on. Like that's a great way to save money, but how much does the sensor cost? How many of them do you
Yeah.
need? You pay to have them installed, and if they're that like, are they super finicky and you're going to get it like that back room where you can't turn the lights off and they're always going to be fixing them all the time, then maybe that isn't such a good idea, you know? And that's where, I mean, the village board might, I mean, I don't know if they're going to want to know that that's how this stuff works, but until you come to them with, oh, this is the money we want to say, and they just might say the exact same things. They're like, well, what we have is working. The other stuff sounds like too outer space stuff you'd put on a space shuttle. We don't need it for the library. We're not going to spend the money.
What about if we, so I think what I'm hearing from you is if there's not a price tag associated with it, people probably won't pay attention and won't care that much. What about if we presented this as the prototype for an energy savings plan for Cross Plains? And at the very least, in doing that, we get their kind of like sign off or approval that this is an energy reduction plan for the village. And
Do you
in
think
that way, they've sort of said like, yeah, we've seen it, we acknowledge that this exists, and this can be, things that we think about fixing going forward.
Yeah, I mean, so would that mean then that we would be looking for like an approval, is like what you're saying, like a vote on it? Like this is the energy plan vote, or how the energy plan at least stands now, depending on how if we get that other grant thing, where like the energy plan becomes more refined.
Yeah, I think I'm curious what other people think, but I think that's where I'm headed. I think that it would be good to have it kind of formally and officially approved, that there is this plan for how we want to reduce energy based on this audit that we had done, and that is subject to refinement if we're part of this program and figuring out better ways to save money. But barring that at least we have something that the village board has looked at and said, okay, these are things that we want to try to fix over time.
I like that idea. I mean, even if it's, because I think they're gonna be hesitant to endorse something they don't know what the price is going to be on, but it's more of a concept, I guess.
Yeah.
Can you get behind the idea that we've had an expert do a walkthrough and he found these not low-hanging fruit, but these opportunities, and that we are going to hopefully do another deeper dive on what it would take, what they would cost. But we got to start somewhere. And I'm almost thinking then that this could end up being, even if it's stripped down even more, I'm envisioning maybe a table with Michael's content in it that has a column 1 is priority, and then column 2 is probably the location, and column 3 is the title. And you could strip out all of the description, because you will have that full report as an appendix someplace. If somebody wants to know
Oh, that's a good idea.
what effluent post-aeration dissolved oxygen modifications are, then they can jump over to the full description on the colorful summary that he gave us. So this would end up then being kind of a cover sheet almost, summary. Because I agree, if someone's going to be reluctant to read this, I think the simpler the better, because then you might entice some people to at least scan it if it's very simple in a table format.
And I think, I'm thinking about like Jay's approach, which I'm kind of trying to put on my like Jay hat. I think that he might say like, what are you asking us to approve? And I think my response is, we're asking the village to approve kind of a general approach to saving energy. And here are the recommendations from an expert who we had come out and do a site visit and building walkthroughs. And that, you know, this is something that we want to refine. And we might, and, you know, we're looking to participate in a program that will help us refine it, but we would like to refine it and come back to it even in a year and see kind of where we are on making these reductions. But we're going to refine it by trying to get some cost estimates and then come back to the board. Anytime we're looking to actually spend money, then we would ask for village approval. But we're even looking for village approval to pursue like this energy reduction plan. You know, do we feel like this is an, are we getting like a sign off in order to pursue these reductions?
Right.
It makes sense to me. I mean, and this is, we have had an expert, you know, weigh in. This is not just some guy. I mean, it was an expert. It is a place to start. Obviously, these 10 things or whatever are not, you know, all end all be all of what Cross Plains could be doing, but it is a place to start.
Okay, I just, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, so then yeah, so we would ask them to approve the audit that was gone through, or the, so that's where I'm just like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I know.
Yeah.
I just get
Okay.
confused by these generalized approvals, which is
It-
like what I think, you know, that's
Yeah.
why Jay was like, you know, it's like before we went through that whole shebang to have the board approve the audit thing, right? Remember that? So, or whatever this was. And it was just kind of a, what is this? Why don't we just present this summary and be, this is what they found. You gave us permission before to do this. This is the results. This is the summary of it. Here's the whole thing. This is what they found. And then we could just write something saying the sustainability committee, what are we going to go do more research, or we're going to then say that we're trying to, you know, do the plan thing or the baselining thing, and we're going to see, and that will maybe develop this into more of a plan. But I don't know if we have to have them vote on this again. This was just the results of it.
Yeah. I think, Michael, the reason, and I'm trying to firm up my own thinking on this. I think the only reason that it makes a lot of sense to me to have like a formal, yes, this is what we're gonna approve these actions. Like we're gonna approve this memo or this document as our energy reduction plan, is it gives us a little bit more of a foot to stand on to be able to point back to say Cross Plains has an energy reduction plan, versus like an audit, which is just something that an expert did and that's information, versus like a plan that the village board has approved and said this is what we're going to take action on. So I guess the difference in my mind is in asking them to approve, you know, and putting together like 10 actions and giving them the list of priorities, presenting that as, we're presenting this as an energy savings plan and we're seeking approval. If the village board were to approve that, to me, that gives us a firmer footing to say we can take action now, because there's been a plan that has been approved for us to take action on. And maybe that's like, maybe that is a nuance that does, like, maybe that is not an important nuance. And if it's not, that's okay. But it's in my mind, having the village board endorse it by approving it gives us more standing to take action.
Okay, we can throw it up to them and see what they want to do with it.
Is there a downside, like if they don't approve it? I mean, is that kind of what you're thinking?
Well, right. Well, that would definitely be like, oh no, we don't want to do any of these things, you know. Well, that
Mhm.
would definitely be a downside, but because, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's a downside or not. I mean, the only,
Michael, we haven't even provided them with the audit yet, correct? If
no.
yeah, so they haven't seen it. They knew as part of the resolution that we had them approve, and what they approved was to pursue the energy audit. So I mean, I think it's in their interest to see the outcome of that energy audit.
Oh,
That
I definitely agree with that. I'm just, I
I
don't know.
think
I guess that, I mean, if we want to have them vote to accept the audit or see, you know, that's where I don't know. I mean, unless I understand like your things, like them, it's like always like trying to get like this approval so you can like keep going on.
Yeah.
But if you bring something to them and they're like, even though we approved this in this bigger thing, they're like, yeah, we're not going to do that, then,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen. I mean,
I mean
that's
one
Mhm.
where,
thing. Yeah, one
Yeah.
thing that you could maybe again, I still consider myself new. I don't have the best frame of reference on this, but you could maybe put this together like Michael has done, but maybe with an eye to we'd like to say these are the top, priorities identified in the energy audit. We think that many of these can be considered capital improvement projects that the village could maybe add to the capital improvement plan and identify one maybe item per year or something for possible addressing. I don't know, Michael, if you think that that would be something that set aside money, or we can look into on an annual basis one of these items to determine fixing and addressing energy improvements, and one of these recommended, you know, areas within the village. And we'll look into the costs and we'll have it for the SIP, the capital improvement plan come next fall, or, or whatever, the one that we as a committee determines to be the highest priority, and we'll get an estimate, a no cost estimate, and put it on the capital improvement plan for addressing next year.
well, yeah, that's sort of the way that it would have to be done. You'd have to,
Instead of throwing everything at them, or just presenting it as one document saying these are a list of what the energy audit suggested, we think the best approach would be we'll piecemeal it out and we'll take one at a time. We'll talk about which ones we want to focus on, bring one or two to you, or just come back in the future meeting and say this is what we think these costs will be, because Jay at the end of the day is going to want to know cost on
well,
everything.
right. That's what I'm saying is that and so I don't know. I mean, if we want to throw it out, I mean, they would just be like, sure, we'll approve it, but that's just going to be like, well, we didn't put any money toward it. And that's where
Yeah.
you
I
have
hear
to,
you, Michael.
like, you really have to put like the rubber meets the road. Otherwise, it's just an approved thing. That's
Yeah.
where, I mean, a lot of these things are just like being conscious, like the library, focus on enemy recommends varying with your HVAC contractor. Okay, so the village board approves this. What we really have to do is go and talk to the new head librarian, which isn't in there yet, and be like, hey, these were two things at the library that we found, or three things with the all building interior LED lighting, like how they started their conversion, but then they stopped because all the water came through the ceiling. Well, that's really what happened, I think, because it started raining inside the library. Like all their maintenance money went away from LED conversion on their interior to let's make sure we get insulation back up there. And so you go talk to the library, and then it says, recommends when it's time to replace the existing 1.5 horsepower hot water circulation pumps, those be replaced with variable speed, blah blah blah. Like those things. It's like, would the librarian know to ask the HVAC guy, because she's the one who's going to be talking with him about replacing the hot water circulation pumps? So whether or not the village board, I mean, I'm basically just saying whether or not the village board approves this or not, but if it never gets to her, then it's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where
Yeah.
that's, so that's, I mean, that's why I don't know. I mean, we want to throw it up there for a vote, but some of them might be like, what are we voting on? Like, just kind of.
Yeah. I think I, I'm gonna I'm gonna defer to your experience and happy to follow your lead on that, Michael. I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me, and that it might just um
I mean,
I guess there's a potential risk that they could not approve it. But then there's also
which the whole
just
thing
kind of
is,
confusion.
yeah, it is, and that's what I don't want to like cause is like the confusion, because there was like a lot of confusion about even just ratifying, like going and getting that audit done. Like
Yeah.
we have to write that whole thing up. We're the sustainability committee. We wanted to go get a free audit done. Let's just go do it. We don't need a
Right.
resolution to do it.
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess that's where I'm just more.
Mhm.
I don't know. It just seems like going back, but I think that we definitely need to, put this summary possibly in the next village board packet. Well, we definitely need to give them the whole thing, that because they said we say we want you to go get an audit, right? They need to see that audit. This is what the results were. And so then we come back and we can say this is the summary of it. But see, it's almost like that's where I said before, was I writing it from a persuasive perspective? Like, am I trying to convince them to do one or two of these things? Or am I trying to convince them to do them all? Or was I just summarizing it so they wouldn't have to read the whole thing? See, that's where I wasn't sure what I was writing.
Mm.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
Like if we want to do something for the capital improvement, like I know for Pam, like for inside the library, she was only going to replace the LED lights, because they have like a bunch of different banks of them, right? There's a ton of things. And she was only going to replace like so many banks each year, like out of her maintenance budget, so that she wasn't asking for capital funds from the village, like, like to buy more shelving units,
Mhm.
you know? So that's where, like, if us as sustainability working with the library, we go, hey, we want you to replace all the lights inside, all the LED lights inside the library. We went and worked it out. It's going to cost this amount of money to do it all. That could be just a capital improvement, or they'd be like, no, she needs to do it piecewise. Maybe she could get that back room fixed. And, you know, I guess the question is do we want to focus on specific things, or do we want to make them approve a big thing? And that's where I don't know. I mean,
I think Brian summed it up really nicely in that number one, the board needs to see the entire audit in some
yeah,
fashion,
I
for
definitely
sure.
agree with that. They need to see it,
Yeah.
because if they want to read all the details, they should read all the details.
Right. But then saying essentially what we're asking for is, I guess, permission or endorsement to pursue some of these remedies. And whether that's a one a year or it's one every 2 years, once we are able to find, put a cost to something.
Yeah,
But we want to do something with it, I guess, we just don't want it to get shelved. It's like, oh, thanks, audit guy,
oh, I
now
get
it's
you.
gone.
So we're
So
kind of asking them for permission to actually start to possibly implement some of this. Is that what you're
to
basically saying?
continue to
Melissa?
pursue, yeah, continue to flesh it out. We don't know the details. We don't have the costs. But we also don't want to get down the road of pursuing those costs and have them just say, well, we don't endorse this plan at all. And then we've
Yeah.
wasted our time. So we sort of want a green light to do some more on this, but we don't have to, we're not, I think we should make it clear we're not asking to do all of this at once.
Oh,
At
Even
once. Yeah.
one a year. Even one a year would be great. One of the larger ones.
Mhm.
all right. Yeah, that sounds good. See, okay. So I guess I just always jump over get the permission. Like I just always I'm like, hey, this is this proposal that we wrote. Like, what do you think of it?
Yeah.
Like rather than getting the 900 approvals before the final thing, I just jump to the final thing and go, this is a great idea. And then
And I don't know if can you frame it in seeking endorsement to, you know, to pursue to learn more about what these things might mean, I guess. Because if they say no, we're not going to waste our time. The
Well,
village
that would
doesn't.
just be a great generalized thing, and that would be fine. They're going to approve that because they know they're all coming back for another vote at some point or something.
Right. So with this format that we're looking at right now, could it benefit from even being simpler for them to kind of do the at first glance? Yeah, I can see there's these 10 things. They're in high priority, medium priority, and they've got fancy names on them. Does that as a cover sheet to the other report, does that add value, or do we just say, here's the report?
I don't know. I mean, with like we were saying, Melissa, like how the top four just, I mean, I don't.
I think this is great, Michael. You put a lot of thought already, and that's a lot to
Yeah.
boil down into
Well,
Yeah.
one pager. Oh man.
For sure.
Basically, it was just like I say, it started out with how do I just really turn it into like simply what he said. But then when I got to those rooftop units, I was like, I mean, I didn't, it's pretty, turn off 5 horsepower blower when not needed. That's pretty obvious, right? I don't know how to talk about a free cooling economizer, like, without giving a definition, but I guess you just assume that they are, and it could be, I mean, I guess my question is do you want me to write this as an even simpler thing for the summary of it?
I don't know that you need to simplify much beyond what you've already done, Michael. If you wanted to, I think it would be okay, but I also feel like just that one pager that you did is sufficient. I think it's good. And then attaching that to the fuller assessment.
Do this
Perfect.
first, then the full assessment. And I'll keep them in this order rather than arranging the priorities, because this is the order they were in the assessment. If I start rearranging things, they might get kind of confused. I don't know if you care about that, but if that's going to be the summary, it should kind of flow in the same order so that, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. One suggestion might be just for that first WWTF, just spell that out.
That is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But other than that, yeah, I think Melissa's right. I think you've done a yeoman's job of boiling it down to
For sure.
I wasn't sure.
a digestible size.
Yep.
Yeah, it definitely, yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay, great. So I wasn't sure. So yeah, that sounds fine. Let's go forward with that. Do we need to vote on this or anything, or do you guys just
I don't think
say?
so.
All right.
Nope.
All right. So Brian, I will send you an updated version of this with the wastewater treatment plant to find what that is.
Okay.
I guess I can just update that. That'll be really easy. And yeah.
You want to do a memo like with the village letterhead? Like, are we going to put it, are you aiming at the other side? Are you going to aim for this to go on to the June village board meeting agenda then for a discussion review, so to speak?
Why not? Would that be okay or no?
No, yeah. If you want to, we can. I already know. I want to say we probably have, off the top of my head, 13 to 15 things already on the agenda for this coming month's discussion. Not that I could definitively tell you that any future month will be less jam-packed with fun. But this I already know is pretty jam-packed with fun.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm
Okay.
not concerned. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of discussion if the recommendation is just going to be the sustainability committee is looking for approval to begin researching and implementing these energy things. Like that's just what it's going to say, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of discussion unless they get into the,
Yeah.
the ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're just basically saying, this is what was on the audit. We're going to start doing a little bit more research into it. Okie dokies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
So that's why I don't think there'll be a whole lot to talk about. Hopefully not.
Okay.
cool.
Um, okay, well, let's do that. Steve, you had talked about the progress on the plan and there was like a grid or something you had mentioned, or do you know where that is, Melissa? I did some looking. I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I think it was just the color coding idea, right?
Yep, there's a color coding for our sustainability plan.
And is that like online? Is that somewhere?
Yeah,
I
let me
don't
drop a
know if
link in. I'll go
okay.
find it. It is our sustainability plan. And it's in the Google Drive. So let me grab it.
Yeah, I was.
And I took a first pass. I'm hoping that the other members can just keep me honest in what we have started or completed or have postponed, kind of with a simple red, yellow, green
I think you did a
status.
good job. I looked at that, Steve. I thought that was, when I looked at it, I
Okay.
didn't do a deep look, but
Hmm.
when I looked at it like last month, I was like, oh, this is good.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna chat out the link to it.
How would you how would you envision something such as a solar farm that we put a lot of effort into and it's didn't come to fruition, at least yet? Would you call that a yellow because we
Red.
took a red?
I'd
Yeah.
say it's red.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah,
there's one we can update then.
yeah.
So line
Um,
one, I'm looking at row two.
yep.
The status should be red. Oh, you just got it.
Yeah, I
Good.
just did it. Yeah.
Ah,
I know, that's a bummer. But
is
who
there anything
knows?
ongoing, Brian, with that? Did that idea,
With the solar farm,
the solar farm, was there any other activity or that we were pursuing on that?
not to my knowledge. Ever
Okay.
since I've been with the village, I've never heard more or been given any contacts to re-engage regarding having that
Okay.
back to the table.
Okay. I knew we had only a handful of potential sites and I think it came down to real estate deals and negotiations and such. So,
Yep.
okay, that's red.
Right. Yeah, it definitely did. I think a lot of that stuff fell through.
Yeah.
Urban agriculture, however, is a green.
It's green.
How about that? Melissa, did you end up with ducks?
Yay. No, no. The reality is I've heard there's so much work, so I'm not looking to take on anything extra in my life right now.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
But I really love that you color coded it. And it's like I think it's gonna be a lot easier going forward, Michael, when we're looking at the plan to just zero in on some of the red ones as a way to prioritize our conversation.
No, I definitely agree. Thank you. I meant to email you about where this was or what was going on. All right. Oh, wow, Steve,
So,
you did like all of them.
well, I took a
Yeah.
shot anyway. I mean, establishing a water retainage project on 14 acres Brewery Creek. I know there has been discussions, but no real, I don't think we've had, real concrete movement. Is that warrant a yellow because we've sort of, at least has been discussed, or is that a no color?
I don't know. Brian, how is like some of those grants going with that? Do we know or not or what?
So right now, the one that I put together with Mike Piper for the flood mitigation property right adjacent to Creeks Crossing, they are waiting out a 30-day tribal notification period of trying to determine whether or not there might be anything impacted if we were to begin doing some property updates there. So that should elapse, I want to say around the 18th, 19th of June. And I've already secured the services of an archaeological surveying company to basically do like a soil sample archaeological site survey. And once those results are done, assuming nothing comes up on the tribal inquiry or tribal review, then those results will be given back to FEMA and we'll move forward to the next step in their process of review. But you know, if everything goes as planned, I want to say that grant was like somewhere in the neighborhood of like $250,000. So for that property. So hopefully, knock on wood, we'll, you know, get approved for that if everything goes forward as is without issue.
That's
That's
great.
that's good. What would $250,000 on that property get us? Like, what
Well,
does that
so
do?
yeah, that's the other side of it. Like I haven't, Mike was doing the contacting with the more or less the engineer that was kind of consulted to do some of that prelim work when I think Bill had proposed doing like a
Yeah,
larger project. So
yeah,
this
that
would
was
be
that big jewel report that he did.
Yep, exactly. So this would be a scaled down version to the 13-acre piece of property to the best, I guess, abilities that they could implement something to help the village at that price point, essentially. But I've never seen the concept plan and what that engineer came up with in his mind for how that site would be, you know, modified in that capacity. But obviously this isn't the first time that they've done it. The only other piece of information to pass along on that, Mike Rupiper informed us at our last Black Earth Creek steering committee meeting that he's leaving Carpsey.
Oh
Oh,
no.
geez,
Mm.
really?
So yeah, I don't know if he actually already left or not, but yeah, he was officially, I think, retiring and going to do a different kind of line of work, somewhat related to what he did in a past career as well. So
Darn.
they're in transition too.
Right.
Mm.
Okie dokies.
So talking about color coding, then that project there's a lot going on there as in it, you know, is yellow. You want to keep it simple, red, yellow, green, or does that, you know, is that a yellow / green, or do we, you know, do we want to get that complex? Because it seems like there's a lot more happening there on line 5 than there is on line 4. Yet the color
We need
coding
more
kind of makes.
colors.
I know. Well, I'm resistant to this, you know,
Me
have
too.
it be too complex. And if you want to keep it simple, I'm totally down for that. And like the light ordinance, Michael did a ton of work on row 6. You know, you have almost a full draft version, you know, 3 of that.
Yeah, I
Here's
was.
how
Yeah.
the way that I would think about it, Steve, is green is it's done, or it's, you know, we've made progress such that we think this is going to be done in the next year or two. When I have similar dashboards, the yellow means that that we have made progress, we've done some things on it, but it's not done. And the red is that it isn't done, and we don't think it's going to get done in the time period that we've described unless there's some intervention.
Uh-huh.
And if we're thinking, if, you know, that's a consistent way that we're all thinking about it, then I think we can keep the colors.
Okay. That makes sense to me. That's intuitive.
Yeah.
Row 7, looks like I said unsure of status on sustainability should be considered a decision process in committees. I don't know where that is. Maybe that doesn't warrant a color yet. Like what does a not started look like? I don't know if I have.
Row 7. I actually I wonder if we're looking at different versions, Steve, because I colored it red on this
Right.
call. Because Andy and I started it, and we just kept spinning our wheels because it seemed like a really good idea and a really simple thing to just develop a system for how villages and the board and employees should think about sustainability. But then we actually realized that they're all different audiences, and how they would think about sustainability would be different
Uh-huh.
for each entity. And then it started to feel really complicated. And then we thought, well, do we need anything more than just our sustainability plan and making sure everybody has a copy of the sustainability plan? We just never
Right.
could find anything that we felt like it seemed like a simple project until we started to really think about it. And then we weren't able to come up with something that we thought would be useful.
Okay. Okay. So if we get that's a red, and then
Yeah.
I get rid of the unsure of status comment in there. We know what it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's helpful. And then a question on row 11, replace village vehicles at the end of their life cycle. Info from Brian on where the board left the gem vehicle and grant process. So I'm not sure if have we done anything with that one? Does it warrant a yellow, or is it a no color, haven't started kind of thing?
So we were kind of ticked off, but the state, which I think was running that grant program, basically came back and said, "Oh, we've changed the grant completely. So now that
Mm.
isn't even something that qualifies for consideration in this."
Ah.
And I forget the exact specifics of it, but it was pretty disappointing to hear that they basically changed to where that isn't even a considered option for approval
Huh.
of the program.
Mhm.
Like they rewrote the entire, terms of what the program was going to be geared for. And I guess they got a lot of people that were writing back that were pretty ticked off about that. So that's not going to happen. Let's put it that way.
Okay. At least through that grant process
That
yeah.
correct.
Hey, Brian, do you know, is the police chief asking for any new cars this year in the capital thing?
Uh, Preliminarily speaking, if not one, two.
Okay.
There will
So would
definitely at a minimum be one, but I think he's gonna ambitiously, hopefully go for a second, just based on the current state of the vehicles.
right.
Okay.
Okay. So does he have any desire for a hybrid or electrical police car?
I think in the discussions that we had, just kind of circling around the resolution when he started talking to a few of the other departments, I think the initial, at least consensus was the EVs for police, law enforcement just aren't there yet. Not saying they won't be, but they just aren't either. And maybe it could be climate here in the Midwest. The departments that have them thus far haven't been as pleased with the versions they've received versus the older, gas models.
Right. No, that was kind of a hesitant thing before. I kind of felt it was kind of going to be the same idea this time around, and sort of thought he'd said something about that.
He's still
And
going
I'm
to
just
research, he'll still do the research and we'll still bring a proposal for what the closest, comparable option in an EV format is. But I think he's talked to enough places thus far to kind of feel like maybe that's not going to work for the Cross Plains department, at least.
right. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't know what you guys are thinking, if you want to keep going or whatnot. Inside the packet again, I put this purchasing policy, which was something that Middleton had done, put together, just sort of how the sustainability should be considered in purchasing things. I just kind of ripped it off of Middleton. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at it. We don't have to talk about it tonight. I'll be honest, I didn't reread it for tonight's meeting, but it seemed kind of vague when I read
Yeah.
it. Right?
Yeah, and Michael, I've seen them before. Like I think I've seen Middleton's, and then I think Andy Bart got it at some point, and then I maybe Verona's too, and they honestly don't seem particularly useful.
Well, I even think this was approved by the Middleton Common Council. Like, I was looking at Middleton's website. This was going to go to the Common Council. Now, whether or not it got approved or not, I don't know. But I think that this
Yeah.
version was, and when I read it, it was just kind of like, how do you enforce this? I mean, people
Yeah.
want to, buy stuff. It
Yeah.
just seems like a policy that's, how do you enforce it or whatever? I mean, how do you know that the lower greenhouse gas emissions associated with a product's manufacturer? I mean,
Yeah,
how do
right.
you check any of that? I mean, it's just like that's why I wasn't sure what a purchasing policy meant.
Yep. And would it just create extra work for Brian or other village staff to, kind of bog people down and
Right. How do you
slow
how do you
things
make sure they're
down?
sweatshop free when it's being shipped
Yeah,
from China without child labor? If it's
right.
just too difficult to enforce, it's just going to be ignored, and then what's the point of even passing it?
Right. Yeah. And I'm gonna flag that I'm gonna need to run. We actually have overlapping meetings. So Chris has been in a meeting since 7 o'clock upstairs, and we've got childcare that things are going crazy upstairs right now. So I'm gonna need to run.
Okay. Did you want to say anything about these grants real quick?
You want me to just cover that very quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So basically, Michael had asked me to put together a list of some of the things that are currently available or programs that are currently offered in and around Wisconsin, or specifically Dane County. Just some resources that we could look at and maybe identify what program we'd like to target, or what specific grant we would like to pursue, related to any of the sustainability initiatives that we currently have on our plans. So I kind of went through a few of the different sites and things that I bookmarked over time and some of the website pages to kind of give you a list of different opportunities that are currently available, some of the things we might want to look into, or discuss at future meetings. There's a lot of good information here. Some of it's very overwhelming when you get into the specifics of how many programs and grants are offered within those, like the IRA grant. There's a lot of different options, but some of it is important, and there are examples like of what we could potentially qualify for in the IRA realm, like the direct pay feature towards solar, geothermal, and EVs, possibly at the new Village Hall police station. So I think it would be in our benefit to look this over, and maybe at one of our next meetings, start having discussions about which particulars we'd like to focus in on and zero in on to apply or put efforts towards applying for one.
Sounds great. So people
That
have time
sounds
to
really
check
good.
those out. I kind of read those a little bit.
Yep.
Hey Steve, you have anything on No Mo May? Was it a success?
I don't have anything in specific. I thought it was a success. I went with the low mow May option, so I just mowed my grass higher. We had, I saw several in my neighborhood, folks that endorsed it. I don't know how the signage, probably based on how many people picked up signs from the village office, might be a little bit of an indicator too. Brian, do you know offhand if those were?
Say that one more time, Steve. I'm sorry, I was just writing a note on the page here.
Oh no, do you know if folks took advantage of the signs that were available at the village hall?
This time we didn't get as many signs. It wasn't much. I would say less than 10 total from the amount that we had ordered. I think everyone who participated last year reused their signs, so there wasn't as much of a demand this go. But that being said, we'll have plenty for the next year's initiative.
Yeah, I think it was nice. We had some additional information about sort of the low mow option. We had some information about there was a lot in the news actually about controversies around no mow May and going full blown no mowing and sort of the hidden downsides. So I think the science is coming along as far as what may be a sweet spot, which seems to be a 4 to 5 inch lawn if you can do it. I don't know many homeowners that have the equipment to do that, but I had plenty of flowers and plenty of pollinators even doing the high mow May or low mow whatever option. So I would say it's a success. We should continue to promote it.
Okay, great. All right. Well, we know what we're doing. Does anybody want the wrap up? Melissa's gonna do that one thing. I'm gonna kind of work to get the audit thing in the packet. Anybody else? Any future agenda items? If not,
Nothing comes to mind. Thank you, Michael, for coordinating, chairing.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael.
just
Thank you for your
email me
flexibility. Yeah.
during the month if you want something on there. I don't know what we're going to talk about next month exactly, but we'll figure it out to plan stuff. All right.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Michael, for sharing. And Brian, look for this draft application from me in the next day or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
If not tonight, I'm going to see if I can get it to you tonight.
Brian, have a great time off, and Steve will make a
Happy
motion to
vacation.
adjourn the meeting.
Seconded.
All right. The meeting.
Aye.
Yeah. Let's vote. All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
All those
All
opposed?
right.
Nay. All right.
Take care, all.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.